Okay,
we're up to the Mishnah on Chaf Ches on the base. The Mishnah on Chaf Ches on the base. We're going to finish the Perek. Best time tomorrow. Very important. We're going to start Lulav Hagazel. Again, there is recording that you can watch at any time if you want to keep Daf Yomi. I'm speaking to a few people. I won't tell you who I'm speaking to, but Maven Yavin. Okay. Anyway. Says the Mishnah, Kol Shivas Hayomim, Adamais Sukkah Keva, Hu Beis Aroi. All 7 days, a person makes his house, his Sukkah Kva, his place where he lives, and Beis Aroi. Yardu Geshamim, when it rains, Meimasai Mutter Lifnois, when is it permitted to go ahead and leave the Sukkah? Meshe Tisrach HaMikpah, when it's food, the mikpah is a type of food, bean soup. When that gets ruined, when the rain comes, the rain comes in at that time, you can leave. Mashla Lamad David Daimer, the Evet Shabal Limzai Kais Rabbi, and Evet comes to go ahead and pour a kais for his master. Shafach like Keaton Alpanov, and he goes ahead and puts it in his face. The Gemara is going to ask who to who. So basically, what it is, and we'll get into this a little bit, that as opposed to other mitzvahs where if you don't perform them, by Sukkot, if you don't perform the mitzvah that first night, it's like, of course, the rain. It's like Kodesh Baruch Hu is rejecting us, and it's a simon klala really. And we'll have to see why it's different than other mitzvahs. That why is that night of Sukkot so special and so uniquely different that we view it as if Kodesh Baruch Hu we're coming to serve him, and he's like the water, the rain is like throwing something in our face. Says the Gemara, Tanabana, Kol Shivas Hayomim, all 7 days. Adamais Sukkah Keva, Hu Beis Aroi. A person makes his Sukkah Keva, a place of permanence, and his house temporary. Ketzad, Hoyula Kalim Noyim, if he has nice Kalim, Malin the Sukkah, he brings into the Sukkah. Matsoyis Noyis, if he has nice tapestries or sheets, Malin the Sukkah, you bring into the Sukkah. Oichel V'Shaisin Matayel the Sukkah, he eats, he drinks, he spatzias around in the Sukkah. Another bias of the Tan Rabbana, it's going to add one thing. Teishvu came to Duru. Where do you know you have to be in the Sukkah? Like live in the Sukkah came to Duru. So you put your nice things in the Sukkah. You put your nice kalim in the sukkah. Now it's Yisrael, my first year there. It doesn't rain there. I said the guy took his whole house. He brought his beds into the sukkah, his furniture into the sukkah. It was something. It was in a big sukkah. And it was like a house. A person makes a sukkah his place of residence. Ketzad, a repeat of another. This is another brisa, repetitious, but it's another brisa which always elaborates upon the Mishnah. Kalim noyim, malum the sukkah, matzoyis noyis, nice tapestries or sheets, malum the sukkah. Oichel v'shoisa umetal b'sukkah. It's very interesting. The lashon, my son Simcha, you're able to drink outside the sukkah. Oichel v'shoisa in the sukkah. What do you mean? Oichel v'shoisa in the sukkah. Eating in the sukkah we understand, but drinking, right? Guys, drinking in this, drink outside the sukkah. I'm not talking about people like Rabbi Warren brought up who are machman on themselves. We're talking about halacha, right? We're talking about halacha. What's the then? So it's brought down halacha, fellas. The drinking, if you're just having a drink, let's say you go ahead.
Nothing.
And let's say, guys, you started your meal and you're drinking. You hear this? That drinking is part of the meal. You can't drink outside the sukkah. Once you begin to drink, that drinking is you couldn't take a drink outside the sukkah. You'll be mevatel mitzvah say of eating in the sukkah. If you would take a drink, let's say, in other words, you take the water in the middle of the meal, you take it outside to have a shot. It's not the right thing to do. Okay. So that's what oichel b'shoisa u'metal b'sukkah. And here's what the brisa is. The second thing, u'mishanin b'sukkah, and you can go ahead, Ron, and you can be ma'ayin. Rashi says mishanin, you can learn be'iyon in the sukkah. Is really so that you can learn be'in in the sukkah. V'amar Rava mikra chomish u'masna mishnah b'metalalta, that you can learn in the sukkah. But Gemara, like to learn be'in bar b'metalalta, that you go outside the sukkah. So you see be'in, that what you learn outside the sukkah. It's an Indian of Rashi seems to say it's mitzvah, guys. If you're looking trying to be ma'ayin and you're sitting in a sukkah and it's not working, it's going to be mitzvah you. Rashi says bar b'metalalta im yirtza, if you want to, you don't have to, but if you im yirtza. The mitzvah he's mitzvah, mitzvah patim in a sukkah. If you can't learn well in the sukkah, you don't have to be in the sukkah. Getting out of the sukkah, the air will go ahead, and I guess maybe think you're not in the sukkah, you're outside somewhere. The same thing. So you have a shverkeit. One hand you said that what you learn be'in in the sukkah. The other one says no. You don't have to learn be'in in the sukkah if it's inspire you. So and for the Gemara, like kasha habim migras, something that what he knows already. Habim migras he knows already. That he can learn in the sukkah. Hay be'yune where what he's doing it for the first time. Ki ha the Rava Bar Chama, the Hodla Rava Chama. Ki havi kaimi mekami Rav Chisda merat beGemara bahade adadi. They would go through the Gemara quickly, and then they would go look into what into the Svara. Rashi says, after you learn from him, Shmaitza, Merate, Begamara, Mashashamu, Piv, Dava Plani Asa, Dava Plani Mutter, they go through quickly, and therefore once they got the Rashi Prakim down, Vahodamayim, the Svara, Mataimer Shaldova, what's the reason for something? And Yesh Laheshiv Klum is a question that they can possibly answer. Amarava, Mane Nishtiya Bimetalalta. Mani mishtiya, kalim of drink is in the sukkah. Mani michla barmin mitalalta, and mani of food is outside the sukkah. Now, what's mani of food? What are kalim of food? Let's see Rashi. Mani mishtiya is kosos; those are cups. Mitalalta lefisheina musim, because they're not disgusting. However, mani michle kares plates la'acha after you ate vehen sarich leitzion. Once you finish eating from the plate, you have to be mitzvah them. Once you finish eating from the plate, you have to be mitzvah. So Rashi says it's going to the plate. Al smios. Rashi seems to say, going to Rashi before, the kois is not mias, but the plate is mias. So al smiastic. It's al smiastic. Look at Taisvis. Mana de michlo. Ka'arois lachashi, he quotes Rashi, top Taisvis. Guys with top Taisvis, chav tesam at aleph. Ka'arois lachash achlu men tzarch leitzia min asukah. Mishamios. Kach pirish b'kuntris. V'yesh mefarshim, kigoin, kideirois, pots. For agne delisha and kalim that are used for kneading, for taima, and the reason why they shouldn't be in the sukkah, the ke'ain teduru being in, because you need not al smias but ke'ain teduru. For hani ein regil there's bebayis dira. These pots and these they're not used to be. Guys they cook in the chutzner. They have in the chutzner they have their ovens, right? And therefore they wasn't used to being in the house, right? So therefore they weren't. So Tosha says it's chasaron to have the pots in the sukkah al teshuva ko'ein teduru. It's not the normal way that you live, right? And that's the normal way. The chaim pirish by hilchos gedolos kegoin kadre pots ushpude spits ubeitave, things that you roast ubeitafi, things. These are. That's very interesting. That there seems to be two different things over here. This din of mios. And there's a din of teshuva came to duru. Now, it seems there are two aspects of a sukkah. There's the teshuva and teduru, something being in there that's not supposed to be in there, and then there's something this is not what the Maggid Mishnah calls. It's not covered as sukkah. It's not covered as sukkah. We spoke about, we know in the heebie-jeebie world, the Sela de Hamnusa, we know the Ushpizin, we know there's tremendous spiritual kedusha to a sukkah. But on a plain level, we saw in Daf Tes, we makish a sukkah to a chag, to a chagiga. In other words, it has kedusha. We made a comparison to a chagiga. So how would it be? There's a certain cover for the sukkah that the mias kind of the sukkah that it doesn't belong there. Not as the shuva and keduru, but so there's the din in the sukkah that you have to be in the sukkah like you have. But aside from that, there's a din of cover of the sukkah. Of cover. In fact, the Rambam brings down two shitas. He brings down the shitas ka'arais and he brings down the shitas of kedeirais. Ka'arais is like Rashi and kedeirais like Taisvis. So it could be. I'm suggesting perhaps he's speaking about why ka'arais kedeirais, two different aspects. Ka'arais is that's the shuva came to duru. You go ahead, you eat with them, right? And when you eat, guys. You take the plate right in front of you. Halavai, someone should take the plate away from you, right? That plate sits in front of you. So l'chayra al teshuva came to duru. You could have your dirty plate in front of you, right? Yes. But als the kedusha of the sukkah, you can't have it in front of you. That's the mias. Als the kedusha of the sukkah, you can't have in front of you. Masha'en came kideiros, which is not normal to have, which a pot of food which is not something that is a miastic. That's aswas teshuva and kedusha. So we can go ahead and say both. I think it's a nice mahalach to go ahead and deal with this. Weiter. Chitzva ushchil. These are pails for drawing water. Barm b'talalta, that's outside the sukkah. The sharga and the lamp He's been mitalalta. That's in the sukkah. V'mila bar mital others outside the sukkah of late pligis na machlokes ha b'sukkah gedola ha b'kasukkah ketana. And the sukkah ketana, which is very small, you can't leave it over there because who knows what can happen in a big sukkah. You can go ahead and leave it there. Okay, so this is basically, we go through a few halachas over here. It's going to be a short daf tonight because we're not going to start the new parak till tomorrow. So I figured we'll spend a little time on halacha. Again, this is from the Sefer Shir Hayom, a sikkim of halachas. The Asiyas Kol Tzarcha B'Sukkah, mitzvah yeshiva sukkah, sheyochel v'yishta v'yishim v'yital v'yidah b'sukkah. It's a mitzvah to eat, drink, v'tayal bin the sukkah. Again, when I was a kid growing up, you ate in the sukkah, you left. That was it. You ate in the sukkah, you left. No, you didn't. Go, you live in the sukkah. You still be a mitzvah. Every single second you're in the sukkah is a mitzvah. Just like you die in your house. Bein b'yoyim, bein b'layla. That's the shulchan aruch. V'chein yirtza, the sapil dava im chaveri, you sapil b'sukkah. You could speak in the sukkah. L'fisha kedusha sukkah gedol moed. However, since the kedusha of the sukkah is very great, royal l'mayit ba b'dava devei don't speak too much about business or different things. You should try to speak spiritual things. And of course, that's put down. I assume that's put down by the Mishnah Berurah, which we could expect, right? Right. I see a sukkah kvar. Kol shivas yom moises beis aroy sukkahs kvar. Al kein yeshlo la halois es kelim anoyim. Should bring beautiful kelim into the sukkah. Best matzois hanoyis and tapestries the sukkah. Halim b'sukkah. Now, why are we learning the sukkah? We started learning the sukkah. So it was mashma from the Gemara. The implication was if it was something that you knew when you were ruggled, that you should be in the sukkah, something that you have to be ma'ayin, that you had an option. Rashi was mashma, you don't have to be in the sukkah, right? Something that you'll learn better outside the sukkah. Because if you're in the sukkah and you're unable to learn, then it's mitzvah. And then it's mitzvah. So halimi b'sukkah, kol shivas hayom k'shikoyret tzarich likros b'sukkah. When you read, you have to read in the sukkah. Reading usually, that is chumash. Avol k'shemevin and with dagdik b'masha yikra because noich lo yosef b'bayis, and he understands this with dagdik very much in what he's reading, and it'd be better in the house. Yachal umachus the sukkah. He's able to go ahead and do outside the sukkah. And daiti misheres b'sukkah lo mishom. However, if his das is mishum in the sukkah, the mishel tereich rav lehevi svarim l'lumah b'sukkah efshim. And there's a tereich rav being svarim to learn in the sukkah, then perhaps it's pata. Then mishel makom lanicha sham kol yom esachag chayiv. If you're placed to leave your svarim there, the Shulchan Aruch Mishnah Berurah says, then it's fine. Tefillah mispal beis makom sheyesh lemenucha yosem mispal sham. Wherever you daven better daven. You leave the sukkah. Okay, that's the. What about the kalim? Klishtia, I feel you're able to leave your cups in the sukkah. They in the muslim because they're not something that's disgusting. Like kliachila. There's no set amount, and maybe you'll need it again. Come upon him, right? You may take another drink. Let's say, hypothetically, you're being kindness of mechagecha, b'cholidura. So I don't know. My head is going that direction. I don't know why, but you don't get rid of the last thing. Take the plate, take the kid, the cup, leave the cup. Okay, now slachas is a plate. You have to take them out. You can't. Very important. Don't leave. Take them out. Wait, take them out right away. You're able to take the pot to serve from. The oilam is like not to bring the kalim into the sukkah, right? You put it on a serving dish and bring the serving dish into the sukkah. But you don't bring the pot that was cooked. You don't bring the challah. You don't bring the soup. No. Right. A tureen you bring. I best mention tureen. We call this the shissel. That shissel. Das heißt that shissel. Nicht the tureen. Tureen, right. Okay, and we're talking shekenu after Shulchan Aruch. Will be prat mishein darker basel lehevias kedei shulchan. You don't bring it to the table in your house. Don't bring right. In other words, forget about it's very geschmack. Prat if you don't do it in your house. So forget about the kedusha sukkah part. It's not the shubakin the duru part. Right, it's very geschmack the lashon. Once you have those two things, okay. Menorah b'sukkah gedoli yachnis l'sukkah. Again, in a big sukkah, you should have a menorah there. But it should be of earthenware. They had earthenware with oil. It was disgusting. Right, you shouldn't keep it there in the sukkah. It's small sukkah because of. Even if it's bad, it's seven tefachim. 7 tefachim is small. Mendy, it's like a 7 tefachim is about 2 feet and a little bit. It's about this. It's about this big. It's nothing with nothing. It's mamish nothing with nothing. 6 tefachim to an amma. 6 tefachim to an amma. An amma is basically at most 2 feet, between 18 and 26 inches. 18, 24. Okay, let's do the dinner mitzvah b'sukkah now, right? No one's sitting in such a sukkah except if you're going on the road. You know, if you're going on the road trip, no one has that. No matter how small your porch is, very. Who knows? I shouldn't say. Says the Gemara. Tana Rabbana. Says the Gemara. Tana Yardu Geshamim. We said Yardu Geshamim, when the food gets dripped upon, that's the time you should go ahead and leave the sukkah. When it begins to drip in your mikvah, Tana Misha Tisracha mikvah shall grisim. Yeah, mikvah is a cooked food grisim of grits, of beans. Abaye Havi Kol Yosef Kamed Rav Yosef. Abaye, who was sitting in front of his Rabbi Rav Yosef, with Halalta, and Noshev Zika came along a wind, become Maisi Tzivusa, and it brought this Tzivusa, these chips from it was like dirty. So Amalu Rav Yosef Panali Mani Mechacham, get me out of here. He said that's it. So Amalei Abaye Vatanamish Atisacha Mikba. So Amalei Lididi Kivin Nina Datoi, since I'm an Istanis, Kamisha Tisracha Mikba Dami. Remember we had earlier Rabbi Yosef said of him that he was a Kaisin. He was a Raschanim, he was angry. All of them said about him. He was okay. And I don't know if every person can be an istinus. I don't know about this. We'll see.
Nowadays, most are.
Most of. I want to tell you the fact that right now that the schach is the bamboo. It's so clean. Again, I told you years ago, the blow, you'd get all kinds of stuff. You couldn't eat soup, push it. You could not eat soup without getting, the stuff coming down from the sukkah. Remember, they used to put it on the top of the roof. Those bulrushes. It was terrible. It was dripping in.
Vietnam, they had
He didn't make it to Nam. Remember, the other guy got it to Nam. I love that story. Hi, it's Korea. No, Korea, I think. Hayaichel b'sukkah, the yardu geshamim. He's eating in the sukkah, and the rain becomes to come down. V'yarad, and he leaves the sukkah. In other words, guys, once you have a heta to leave, and you're eating, you began to eat, and then it stops raining. You yigmar sudasai. If it didn't stop raining, of course it must be a heket timsu where it stopped raining. Or else, so the chiddush is that once you leave and it comes down, once you leave and it comes down, you're able to finish your suda. It says Rashi, v'yardu geshamim, v'yardu min hasukkah ligmar sudasa bebayis, ukesheyeshev loi, and he sits down, pasku geshamim, this rain stops. We don't expect him to be mafsik his meal, v'lalois at sheyigmar, until he finishes his meal. What? In his house. Hayayashin tachas hasukkah. He goes ahead and he's sleeping tachas hasukkah. Yardu geshamim v'yarid. We don't expect him to go back in at sheyeor. That's mashmuat. Until it gets light. Iboyelahu. At sheyeor till with an ayin until he wakes up. Or at sheyeor until he gets light is a shachar. What does it mean? Does it mean that if he gets up, we don't expect him to go back in until it gets light, or until he wakes up? And if let's say he wakes up in the middle of the night, then you have to go back in. Tashma at sheyeor v'yala amud hashachar. It's both things, right? You just said right. You said that yeyor means amud hashachar, and amud hashachar means amud hashachar. Aleima at sheyeor until he wakes up, v'yala amud hashachar, right? And until he wakes up and yala amud hashachar. But again, he's not expected to go in the middle of the night into the sukkah. Okay. Okay, so let's see the halacha over here. Halacha, share geshamim, the share of geshamim, yardu geshamim l'sukkasa, yom yadlu tech sukkah tipa shal yachal kalkal tavshel shall pull a kanuna, a dish of beans. Mutalei lotzas me a sukkah, it's permitted to go out. V'chein nechayev lahachal sukkah b'chei gavna. And if it's you don't have to go in the sukkah initially. And even if the person himself is not mitzvah, he's able to leave. Yodu b'tzaydecha shal sukkah. Imein gesham yodas l'makom sheyeshiv sham. Sarach lechol b'sukkah kol zman she'in yodim alav. Let's say it's raining part of the sukkah and the other part is okay. Then he doesn't have, he's not permitted to leave. Al shulchan v'esher shafilu berachas leishav b'sukkah yach levarach. It's possible to even make a leishav b'sukkah. So let's see, for whatever reason, it's raining in part of the sukkah and the other part is good. You can possibly make a leishav b'sukkah. He eats, Geshamim comes down, and he goes wide into his house. The himshich sudasa bebeisai, and he continues his suda. Or he begins eating his house because of Geshamim. After Pascha Geshamim, even if it stops in its tzarich lives like sudasa bebeisai, does not have to stop eating the last of the sukkah. He goes ahead wide and finishes in his house. Shir Geshamim l'sheina. What about the shir? So we know the share of eating. What's the share of sleeping, guys? Share of eating is in your food. Whatever share of sleeping. You don't have to go ahead and be mishayir. As soon as you feel a drop of wet, that's it. Even a little rain is tsar, and therefore in other words, you would be able to leave. He sleeps and it starts to rain. He doesn't have to go back. We got undressed. It's a shiloh whether it's a tircha, maybe the tircha is getting dressed or not. Okay, that's good. Next in, now it said, if it rains the first night, guys, if it rains the first night, then it's like the master is throwing someone's throwing water. It doesn't say what does it say in Lashon and Mishnah. An eved that comes to dilute a kos for his master, the shafak like kitain al panav, and he pours kitain on his face. Now it used a pronoun. Who poured on who? Did the eved pour on the master or the master poured on the eved? It doesn't say. So the Gemara Yibaylu, mi shafach lemi. Who poured on who? Tashma Ditanya shafach le Rabbi kitain al panav. The master went ahead and he threw on his face. V'amaloi and said to him, "Efshi b'sham mushech. I am not interested in you serving me. I'm not interested in you serving me." Okay, so it's like Kadosh Baruch Hu making it rain, and he said he's not interested in serving me. He says, "So Gavaldik guys, this is unique. Then you go to shul to hear shofar, and there's no shofar in shul. It doesn't say it's a klala. It's a klala. You go to a Pesach Seder, there's no matzah. And that's why Sukkah is so uniquely special. That we have a klala and a mushal that the master is mamish kissing, throwing in your face, right? So it's beautiful shir I heard from Sully Bornstein. Beautiful shir. There's a sefer called Meiser Rav. It's the halachas of the Vilna Gaon. It's found in the Gross Siddur. If you ever see a Gross Siddur, I have one at home. It's called Meiser Rav. There's a pirish on it called Siach Yitzchak. It was written by a person, Rav Yitzchak Meltzin. Rav Yitzchak Meltzin wrote this pirish. And listen to this beautiful pshat. Ata b'chatanu mikol ha'amim, ahavta sanu v'ratzisa banu. It says, Ata b'chatanu, that's Pesach. That's Pesach. Why is that Pesach? What was the taina? They're over, the goyim are over in the Memter Shari Tumah. They're in Memter Shari Tumah, right? Says the Gemara. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shows us. Ata b'chatanu, you chose us, right? So we're okay. Ahavta sanu. How does Hashem show His love to us? By giving us the Torah. That's true. Chiratzisa banu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu found us accepting. What happened? We did an awful thing in Midbar. The Cheda Egel was a gefer lecha avera. Terrible avera. When Moshe Rabbeinu went and he spalled HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so he didn't destroy us, but the scar tissue was there. It wasn't totally forgiven. When the Anania Kavi returned, Sukkot. For Tzisa Banu. That was the sign that HaKadosh Baruch Hu found a spot for Tzisa Banu. So the Indian of Sukkot is one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave us, right? So what do we want to do? We want to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu sitting in the Sukkah. By Hashem not allowing us to sit in the Sukkah, what's He showing us? I'm not Marutza. You're not accepted. So that's why it's a Sivan Klala. That's why it's unique, that unique thing. Because again, by sitting in the sukkah, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We're showing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you took us back and you accepted us and we're underneath your guys again and we're protected again. And then we're sitting in the sukkah and now you don't allow us. You're showing us we're not marutza. You're showing us we're not accepted. And that's why it's a sin of klala. Rather than other mitzvahs, which, although there's time and mitzvahs, and that one's so clear as that. Beautiful, beautiful interpretation. Yeah, very nice. Okay. Now the Gemara goes off in very tangential and discusses just agarata. So very agarata. Says the Gemara. It's discussing klalos and mentions some other klalos. Tan Rabbanan. Bisman she'acham loika. Now pashtus, this means an eclipse, guys. When the chama is loika, when there's an eclipse, a solar eclipse, simin ra l'chal olam kulai. That's a simin ra for the whole world. Mashal l'mad david doina. What's it comparable to? L'melech basav adam. Shasa suda lavadav. He makes a suda of what for his servants. V'niach panis lefnehem. He leaves a panis, a lantern in front of them. Koyas aleihem. He gets angry at them. But amal la'avdoi, and he tells his eved, tul panas lefnehem. Go take the panas. Go put the lights out. So over here also, over here what? Over here you have the lights are on, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu closes them off. Yes, Mandy. What's your question?
It's a natural thing that happens.
Okay, so we'll get in a second. It's a great case. I'm going to answer the question. Mandy's asking why an eclipse is something that you can go ahead and figure out based upon calculations, right? So what's the siman klal? Okay, we'll get Bezashim. It's a great question. Tanya Remei Omer calls Mashem Oiris Laikim and the Oiris. That means the moon and and the accompanying stars. Like in Siman Ra l'Sanayim Shal Yisrael. This is the Siman Ra for Sanayim Shal Yisrael, guys. Is a Lashon Sagina for Klal Yisrael. Right? Because they're malumid in being gestrafen. The Jews are used to being oppressed. We're used to being punished. So Mashal is Seifer. Mashal to Rashi says Seifer is Malami Tinoikis, a teacher. Shabola Beis Seifer. He comes to say Beis Seifer. He comes to yeshiva. The Ritzur b'yadai. He's got his in the old days. He's got his kalim ready for business. Mi doyeg, who what? Mi doyeg, mi sheraga lukais b'chol yom v'yom. Who has to worry? The person who gets zetzt every day. Who doyeg? So Bnei Yisrael gets zetzt all the time. So Mamela what? We have to worry. Tan Rabbanan. This man shacham aloika simin rola oivdei kechavim. This is l'chayre stira because the one said above it was the whole world. Here it says for the goyim. Levana loika simin rola sanem shal Yisrael kal Yisrael. Again, the Jews, the goyim go after the solar calendar. We go after the lunar calendar. Neish Yisrael mainam lelavana v'vikavim lechama. And the end of minor what? Right. Loika b'mizrach simin rola yeshri mizrach. The people live in the mizrach. If the eclipse is in the east, the Mariv, the eclipse is in the west, Simin Ra Yeshi Mariv. The Emsa, if it's in the middle, Arkias Simin Ra L'chol Olam Kuloi, and Panav Daimel Adam, if its face is similar to blood, right? Cherab Olam, a red sun, a very reddish, or red moon, right? Okay, right? L'sak, black. Sak is usually a goat. And the skin of a goat is black. The sack is chitzei boilam. That pain, starvation will come to the world. People starving, their faces turn black. The zulu cherev chitzei boilam. If it's in the sun and the moon, then cherev chitzei boilam. Laka b'chnisasa. If it's like a b'shash shkia pranias shar lavai. So just like it's shkia, it's going down. Pranius is delayed in coming. It's yasa. If it comes up in the morning, meheres lavai. Then b'yeshlemim chilifad devarim. Switch it around. If it goes down, then punishment will come quickly. If it goes up, then punishment will be delayed. When the nation is punished, its gods are punished as well. Shneimar b'chol elhei mitzrayim shvatim. When they do the Ratzon of Kadosh Baruch Hu, they don't have to worry about any of this. Shneimar Koyam Hashem al derech hagoyim al tilmadu umei oises shemayim al tichatu. Don't fear the oises shemayim. Ki yichatu hagoyim mehema of the kachavim yichatu ben Yisrael yichatu. Because who should be scared? Hagoyim. The goyim should be scared, but Bnei Yisrael don't have to worry. Okay. So maybe it's a good question. So we have this Gemara. Eclipse, an eclipse is a very natural event. It's a very natural event. So what does it mean that it's a siman klala? So there's two drachim I found in the Sefer Shira Hayon. The first derech was the Ein Yaakov, And the second was from the drasha from Rav Yonasan Eibeshitz from the Yoris Tavash. First derech is like this: Einachinami. It's a natural thing, but when it happens, that is the mazel. Is the mazel of that at that time is very, very bad. So, if we do the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, despite our mazel being weakened at that time, that the sun is solar eclipse, would be okay. The goyim, despite no matter what, they're in trouble. So it happens to be this because it's a natural event, but it doesn't preclude. It's not necessarily a stira. It's not contradictory. At that time of an eclipse is a siman klala. So be aware, it's a siman klala, right? A mazel be Yisrael is again. It's mean we're not subject to a mazel. We can overcome a mazel. Doesn't mean it's not mazel. It is mazel. I mean we're not limited to the mazel. I entice. Okay. Next. Okay. Next, guys. So Yoris Tavash says we're not speaking about the natural event. He said there were people who were able to see spots on the sun and see things on the moon. He says there were kadmoinim who were able to be maka that. And Rabbi Yonasan said this. Rabbi Yonasan was a man ahead of his time. He was in the 17th century, in the 1700s. So it was in the 18th century. 18th century. It was in the 1700s, early 1700s, maybe late 16, early 17. He describes. I'm telling you this with a picture. He describes the Dar Haflaga building a rocket ship to go up to the moon to fight. Well before Jules Verne. Remember Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, created a submarine. It was unbelievable. What was it called?
20,000.
What was it called? Come on.
Oh, the new.
No, that's Nautilus. Come on.
No.
I just said it.
I knew that.
What?
I knew that.
Anyway, so you do that?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, anyway, so he says there were people in this time who were able to go even Kadmoina before that, to able to see spots and different things, and as a result, that was a siman klala. That would be probably you like better, that Teretz. Okay, you good? You have a choice, right? Okay, anyway. Yeah, but it's machlokes.
He also spoke about.
People stand and watch the eclipse. They stay for hours and watch the eclipse.
It's a natural thing. It's an unbelievable thing. Anything that's abnormal, people will watch.
Yeah, rain.
I find it very fascinating. That if okay. The Shiksa wants us to continue. Now, says the
You look at that. 5 big steaks. You look at that.
Tan Rabbanan. Tan Rabbanan. Listen, you're going to come to the CM next time. They tell you. You don't know what you missed. Tan Rabbanan. Bishvil Abba Devarim Chamaloika. 4 things cause the eclipse of the sun. Al Av Bezdin Shemes Ve'inei Nisbat Kehalacha. You must but not correctly. Bal Naim Murasa Shet Soka Be'ir Ve'in Mashiach. She screams and no one comes to her aid. Bal Mishkav Zacha. Bal Shnei Achen Shnishbach Damam Ke'echa. They were both killed at the same time. Ubishvil Abba Devarim Ma'oreis Laikin. And 4 things called the sun and the moon and the stars to be like a. Al Koisei plaster, people go ahead and they write stories. Koisei plaster, Rashi says, forge documents. Person's forced to go ahead and write something. They testify falsely. Destroys the land using being megadol, small livestock. And people cut down good trees. Of course, you're nechassan to go over to the malchus. Al mashe shtaris peruyim. Someone goes ahead wide and keeps around shtaris peruyim. They paid up shtar, they keep it around, and it's going to go ahead wide and be used again. The al malve beribis, people go ahead and commit usury. The al shoya suffik shoya sipik biyadam limchais. They have the ability to go ahead and be moichav leminchel. Rashi brings that these are wealthy people. It says Rashi. Al shahoyas asipek biyadam shel balabatim alalu limchais biyad every averes shebedoiran shedevreim nishmayim. There's certain balabatim that people listen to machmas oishram because they're wealthy. But briyos yiramehem, and people are scared of them. Blamicha. So these people who have a capacity, that's why they lose their property. They can give it over to the government. They call out a pledge and they don't go fulfill it. Amar Rabbi, Shvul Abba Devarim Nichsei Baal Batim Yoitzel Litmoyan, they go Litmoyan to be destroyed. Al Kaifshei Schasachia, they go ahead and they don't pay their worker in time. Al Oishkei Schasachia, they don't pay him at all. Al Sheporkin Olmi Al Savareim, Benoisen Al Chavereim, they pass the buck. The Al Gasas Haruach and Gaiva. The Gasas Haruach Keneged Kulam is the worst. Avol Be'anovim Ksiv, regarding humble people, it says Vanovim Yirshu Aretz, His Angu Al Roiv Shalom, and there'll be an Oinig Al Roiv Shalom, so it always pays to be humble. So Bez Hashem, tomorrow we're going to begin a new parak, guys. It's a loaded parak. It's a Shmaka parak. You've all learned it. I ask everyone to try to make it. We're going to do it 4:30, which gives people ability to be involved. Okay. Have a very good night. Thank you for listening.